All right, folks. So we are currently live on the Bronx River Alliance Facebook page. Welcome, everyone. My name is Nathan Hunter. I'm with the Bronx River Alliance in New York City Parks, and today I'm joined by Journey Bimwala, who will introduce herself.
Hi guys, welcome back. Again, my name is Journey Bimwala. I am the co-chair of the Foodway and part of the Friends of Concrete Pun Park. So welcome. Always excited to be here with you guys.
Yes, and we're excited today to be joined by Kamesha Marshall, who's joining us from outside right now. I appreciate you tuning in from your phone for acknowledging our elders today. Kamesha, you want to introduce yourself and
Sure,
share
sure,
the plant?
sure. My name is Kamesha Marshall. I currently work as a gardener for NYC Parks. I am the lead grower and propagator here at the Bronx Nursery, coming up on 4 years. Absolutely love what I do. My plant of choice today will be Echinacea. Obsessed with Echinacea.
I love it. I'm gonna just screen share real fast. We always have these slides that we like to share so people can read and see what we're talking about as we go along. So I'm gonna share screen real fast. I say that. Let's see how fast I can go. Here we go. Cool. So here we go. Echinacea, purple coneflower.
Yes.
So we always love to just like learn the name together just because it's really important for us to understand the plant and to maybe tackle the botanical name together. So the botanical name, as we've learned, is Echinacea purpurea.
Yes.
And we've learned that it's part of the aster family. And we've talked about a bunch of different members of the aster family so far. So this is just another one that we love. So Kamesha, why did you choose the purple coneflower or Echinacea?
Well, a couple of years back, I think probably 2015, 2016, I decided to switch into more of an herbal way of life as far as medicines and, including certain herbs in my cooking, even just, regular drinks, teas, and flipping a little tea in a lemonade, something like that. So one of the first herbs I was introduced to was Echinacea. And that was because I remember when I was little, my grandmother used to take Echinacea supplements. And anytime I got sick, I always had to hear about Echinacea, Echinacea, Echinacea. So that's where I started. I kind of already knew a little bit about the benefits once I jumped in. Being able to ingest flowers, roots, and leaves kind of interested me as well. Because, it's not like a complicated thing where you have to avoid certain parts. You just kind of go have it, kind of go ham with it. So yeah, it's and it's super easy to grow. It propagates itself, and it's just gorgeous to look at.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
I appreciate you naming kind of the fact that it's easy to propagate, right? It's a drought tolerant plant, which, us gardeners, we're all about trying to figure out the plants that will survive. But something you just named that I wanted to bring up was the fact that like the flower is a medicinal part, the leaves and the roots. So
Yes.
I have in front of us, an image obviously of Echinacea, and you can see both the flower, the leaves, and then on the bottom you'll see the roots. But do you want to talk more about kind of what you've learned about that? Or how
I
you've
think
engaged with the plant?
yes. Well, I've engaged with the plant a lot, actually. I currently grow Echinacea at the Bronx Nursery for myself and as well as for use around the Bronx. We actually have a bunch of different variety of Echinacea, from the medicinal to the ornamental. Like I said, I chose it because that was one thing that in my research, when I first started to really like look into switching into a more of an herbal life, I did notice that there were certain plants that you had to avoid certain parts. This part is great, but this part will kill you. But when I came across Echinacea, it was like whole thing. No worries, just take the whole thing down. So it's like, okay, that's the easiest thing. There's nothing that'll harm me. That's the easiest thing to start with. So I started with trying out the taste with the difference in the taste between the roots, the leaves, and the flowers. Not really much of a difference. I do either prune, deadhead the flower to dry and save the flower, and I'll take some leaves with it to dry and save the leaves, or I'll pull the whole thing up to dry to have the whole system. I do dry and take it home. and use it in teas. I'll mix it in certain recipes just to have that added boost. I'll do a tea and mix it in lemonade, things like that. I'll add it to other medicinal things. I also have elderberry growing here, so I'll collect my elderberries and flowers and add it to my echinacea and make a nice immune boosting tea, especially when the winter starts to kick up. That's what I really like to do. So I'll add it to some lavender just to relax, and while relaxing, boosting my immune system, things of that nature.
That is awesome. Journey, I wonder, I know you connect with Echinacea a lot, both in the field and, at the Foodway. I'm wondering if you have any other ways that you engage with Purple Coneflorwer.
Oh yeah, I love echinacea. I remember like when I forage and I walk around and people will have like beautiful echinacea in their front yard, in their garden, all of that stuff. And then like as the year go by, like when September will come by, that is dying off. People sometimes will dig it out and throw it out. In my head, I was like, "That's medicine!" Like, no, you have such a. It's beautiful, but you can also use it as medicine. So I appreciate that plant. And yeah, all parts are very beneficial. But what I really like when I teach the herbal first aid, like when it comes to venom, sting, echinacea is top number one. And I'm not talking about, like the little bee stings and things like that, but I'm talking about like, when you're dealing with venomous snakes, spider, where your skin will start to melt, right? And eventually if it goes untreated, you can actually lose some limbs. Echinacea stops all of that. Echinacea has a property in there where it goes in, and the way that it interacts with the venom, it stops it from turning your tissue into liquid. It stops it, and yeah, it is it's amazing. Like that is one that you always want to have, especially if you're doing those hiking and you know that there's some venomous snake or spiders in the area that you're hiking in. Having that to take it internally and put it on, it's amazing. Very, very amazing. And so yeah, echinacea is dope. Another thing too is with echinacea, because with plants, people only look at them as one dimensional. Like I just mentioned how it's great with stings and venomous bites, but folks usually will look at it as like, okay, great for the immune system. You have a cold, you have the flu, echinacea. But when you look at it and you just see one dimension, you kind of miss out on all of the other amazing thing that it does. If you have like gum issue, gingivitis, this type of thing, like using echinacea as part of a mouthwash, it helps with that. It helps with gum issues. It's an amazing herb, but get to know the full plant. Don't just minimize it in what the majority of people use it for. And if you're going to use it for a cold or flu, it does its best work right at the beginning. The moment you start to feel sick, the moment you have an inkling that something is going on in your body, get your echinacea. But once you're full in, right, like you're in knee deep, that's not the time to bring in echinacea. Echinacea will not work for you. At that moment, echinacea is like, hey, you needed to call me sooner. I don't know what you want me to do with all of this.
That's hilarious. I mean, yeah, there's like special moments to be taking this medicine. I actually, when you were talking about the different uses, I remembered that it's also can be used for earaches. As someone who like suffered from earaches as a kid, I always wondered if I used it as a kid, like would I have gotten my tonsils out? Which was obvious. It was just like a surgery that I wonder if I really needed. Um, I want to just take some time to ask Kamesha about her work setting up pollinator spaces around the Bronx. I know, Kamesha, that's a big thing that you've been taking on. I think it was back in 21
Yeah.
that you were leading that. Do you want to talk about that, and maybe how is Echinacea or other plants that you're working with connected with that?
Sure. Right now, Parks is really trying to steer everything more toward natives, more toward pollinators. really boosting our native wildlife population, giving them things that they're interested in, kind of trying to push out even though they're beautiful, kind of trying to push out the not really invasive, but the more foreign things, and really promote natives and try to see natives, instead of seeing it as a native and an ornamental, try to see a native for its ornamental factor. So with that being said, we have set up several pollinator gardens. We actually have 2 in Malali Park, where we did utilize Echinacea, we did utilize Rudbeckia. Basically now in our pollinator parks, those are our 2 staple flowers, would be Rudbeckia and Echinacea, or black-eyed Susan and purple or pink coneflorwer, common names. Those are our two biggest natives. From what I've noticed, with purple coneflorwer or Echinacea, butterflies really love Echinacea. It's absolutely gorgeous to see a nice, beautiful, big monarch butterfly on top of an Echinacea flower. It's the best thing in the world. I love it. That's one of the big things that we're doing though. Up here at the nursery, actually this year, I'm setting up a butterfly and hummingbird garden. And one of the areas that I'm using, actually I put Echinacea in about 2 years ago. And since it self-seeds, it's just kind of taken over the whole area. So I love it in the summertime. Between the Echinacea and the Monarda that grows, the red Monarda, it's gorgeous. So I'm just gonna add a little more to that. And yeah.
That is awesome. Kamesha, I'm so proud of the work that you're doing around these like pollinator gardens. And I also just want to uplift that fact that, we think about, the fact that they do self-seed, right? Like it's really common to find a small patch and then all of a sudden it takes over an area, which for us, we love. But one of the best reasons that I like to plant purple coneflorwer at the foodway is it actually attracts birds, specifically like finches and some other birds that actually can really help with integrated pest management. So not only is it great for pollinators, but it's great for the species of animals we want to come and help balance everything.
Yeah. And speaking of beneficials, I've noticed I do ladybugs and praying mantis primarily in the nursery. I try to stay away from chemicals. I have noticed that ladybugs really appreciate Echinacea leaves to lay their eggs on. They really appreciate, especially when an Echinacea is planted around something that's a heavy aphid feeder, like a pepper plant. The symbiotic relationship between those 2 plantings, with the beneficials getting rid of the bad bugs that are on the plant, that the neighboring plant, is absolutely amazing. I love them. And they attract hummingbirds as well, which is fun.
Question.
I'm like,
I have a question.
Please go.
Kamesha, earlier, you mentioned ornamental, right? Can you kind of like explain what that is, an ornamental plant?
Okay. Well, more so with us at the nursery or with parks, when we say ornamental, we mean something like something that's not native. Something like a rose, or a salvia flower, or a hypoestes plant, something that's not perennial. It's usually an annual, and it's just super, super, super showy. Whether it's foliage or flower, it's just super, super showy.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is why I'm saying we're trying to get us to see natives in that way, because some natives are really gorgeous, but we see them as, they look like weeds sometimes. So they get kicked out most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate you naming that, because that is like one of our biggest issues. Like when I ride my bike through parks, I'm always like, peeping all the gardens and I'm like wondering what's there. And a lot of what I'm starting to see is a conversion to natives. And I'm excited about this because we just talked about all the ecological services that Echinacea plant offers, right? From birds to pollinators to humans. Exactly. Like everyone loves this plant. And it's just, it's a no-brainer for me, especially when it's a long blooming color, like a colorful flower like an Echinacea, which blooms really from like June to October.
Yeah, it has a very long bloom life.
Yeah. So shout out to the Echinacea and the all the coneflorwer families yes. who really hang on all summer long and provide so many benefits. Yes. So we are like nearing the end of our time. I wonder, Kamesha, do you have any kind of like parting words or anything you want to leave the audience with?
Not really. Just, take the time to stop and smell the roses, especially in, the current pandemic craziness. No one knows which way's left, which way's right. What used to be up is now down, and what used to be down is now up. So take your time, stop and smell the flowers, get in touch with nature, go to a garden and use all 5 of your senses. Touch, look, listen, smell, enjoy. It'll uplift your mood.
That is beautiful. Journey, I wonder if you have any any parting words, or should we end on that?
I wholeheartedly agree with what Kamesha says. So everything that she said.
Kamesha, you're just magnetic to be around. I really appreciate you joining us this Thursday for acknowledging our elders.
I so super appreciate the invite. I love doing stuff like this. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
For coming and joining us. Great.
And I wanted to just do a quick little shout out. Kamesha will be joining us again in April. So we have a talk around native plants or plant names, kind of the broad discussion around names and the intricacies and nuances. And so she will be one of our panelists along with Shanae Bullock and and a member from La Mirada to have a conversation about plant names and what does that mean? What do they even mean? So join us in April. I believe the date's April 12th. More to come. You'll see more on the Bronx River Alliance Facebook, Instagram, website, all the above. But for now, hang tight, and we'll see you next Thursday for acknowledging our elders. Thank you again, everyone.
Bye.